Have you ever stood by the stove boiling a batch of eggs for breakfast, only to dread the moment of peeling them? You're certainly not alone. Picture this: a perfectly boiled egg that refuses to give up its shell. Bits of eggshells sticking stubbornly, chunks of egg white tearing away, and your patience wearing thin. It's a frustrating kitchen challenge, especially when you end up wasting part of the egg you wanted to enjoy. But what if a simple trick could turn this daily annoyance into a delightful surprise? What if 2 ordinary ingredients from your pantry could make your hard-boiled eggs practically slide out of their shells and even offer a few extra benefits for you? It might sound like kitchen magic, but it's actually kitchen science, and it's incredibly easy and accessible. Today, we're unveiling a surprising tip: mixing a bit of baking soda and salt in the water before boiling your eggs. This unassuming combination can transform how you cook and enjoy eggs. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how this trick works and why it's creating a buzz, especially among older adults looking for smarter, simpler ways to stay healthy and independent in the kitchen. By the end of this story, you'll discover how a tiny tweak in your egg boiling routine can lead to easier peeling, less waste, and even better digestion, all while empowering you with a newfound sense of kitchen confidence. Get ready to be surprised by what happens when baking soda and salt team up in your boiling pot. This small change in your morning routine might just make a big difference in your day. Let's step into the kitchen of Margaret, a 68-year-old grandmother and avid home cook. Every morning, Margaret likes to start her day with a healthy breakfast, often a piece of toast, some fruit, and a hard-boiled egg for a boost of protein. It's a simple routine that gives her energy and nutrients, but for years, one small part of this routine has been a source of frustration: peeling the boiled egg. With a bit of arthritis in her hands and not as much grip strength as she used to have, Margaret often finds it tricky to get those stubborn shells off. She taps the egg, rolls it gently to crackle the shell, and begins to peel, only to have tiny shell fragments cling to the white, or worse, chunks of the egg white come off with the shell. By the time she's done, her perfectly cooked egg looks more like a pitted moon rock, and a good portion of it ends up in the garbage. It's disheartening. She's left thinking, "There goes part of my breakfast and my patience." Margaret's not alone in this experience. John, a 72-year-old retired science teacher, loves making deviled eggs for his grandchildren when they visit. But the peeling process often leaves him with ugly eggs and broken yolks, making it hard to create those picture-perfect deviled egg halves. And Linda, 65, who just started a heart-healthy diet, wants to include more boiled eggs for protein. But she remembers the last time she tried. The shells stuck so badly that she vowed never to boil an egg again without help. These are relatable scenarios for many of us, not just seniors. Peeling hard-boiled eggs can be a surprisingly challenging task, no matter your age or cooking experience. One sunny Saturday, Margaret's story takes a turn. While chatting with her neighbour over the fence, she mentions her egg-peeling headaches. Her neighbour, an enthusiastic home cook in her 60s, chuckles knowingly. "Oh, have I got a trick for you," she says, leaning in as if sharing a secret to eternal youth. "Just add a pinch of baking soda and salt to the water before you boil your eggs. I promise it'll make the shells practically fall off." Margaret is intrigued and admittedly a bit sceptical. Baking soda? Salt? She knows these ingredients well. Baking soda sits in her fridge to absorb odours, and salt has been her kitchen staple forever. But using them to boil eggs, this is new. That very next morning, Margaret decides to give it a try. She fills her pot with water, just as she always does, but this time she stirs in a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt, remembering her neighbour's advice. She carefully places 3 eggs in the pot and brings it to a gentle boil. As the eggs simmer, she's curious and hopeful. Will this really work, or is it just an old wives' tale? After the timer dings, she cools the eggs in a bit of cold water, takes a deep breath, and taps the first egg. The shell cracks, and to her amazement, the shell peels off in large pieces, almost effortlessly in her hand. No sticking, no painstaking picking. In a few seconds, the egg is peeled smooth and whole, a perfect little oval of goodness. Margaret can't help but smile widely. By the time she peels the 3rd egg, which goes just as smoothly, She's practically giggling with relief and excitement. Who knew something so simple could make such a difference? This small victory sparks a new sense of confidence in Margaret. She feels like a kitchen whiz with a nifty secret. The next time her son and grandkids come over for breakfast, she effortlessly peels a whole batch of eggs while chatting away, not a hint of frustration. Her grandson exclaims, "Grandma, how did you get the shells off so cleanly?" That proud twinkle in Margaret's eyes says it all. She shares the baking soda and salt trick with them, turning it into a fun little science lesson for the kids. What started as a casual tip from a neighbour has now become a beloved part of her cooking routine, empowering her each day with ease and a dash of culinary curiosity. Margaret's story is just one example. John tries the trick for his devilled eggs and grins as even the fresh farm eggs he bought peel easier than ever. Linda tentatively returns to boiling eggs, this time armed with baking soda and salt, and finds that she can enjoy her protein-packed snack without the usual hassle. Each of them feels a bit of joy and accomplishment from this discovery. It's a reminder that no matter our age, we can learn new tips and improve our daily lives. A tiny change, mixing a little baking soda and salt in water, turned a mundane, frustrating task into a satisfying success. And the best part? This is backed by science, not magic, which makes it even more empowering. Let's dive into why this trick works so well, and what exactly is happening in that pot of water when you mix these common ingredients. Why does adding baking soda and salt to the boiling water make such a difference? To understand that, let's take a quick and simple journey into the science of boiling eggs. Don't worry, we'll keep it easy to follow even if you don't have a science background. By the end, you'll see that this trick isn't just a random suggestion. It has real scientific reasons behind it, which is why it can be so effective, and why it's not just a myth your neighbour made up. Think back to the last time you struggled with a hard-boiled egg. The shell just wouldn't let go, right? The reason is hidden beneath the shell. Every egg has a thin, transparent membrane lining the inside of the shell. When you boil an egg, ideally, the egg white, the albumin, should solidify and pull slightly away from the shell and that membrane. But if the egg is very fresh, or if conditions aren't ideal, the egg white can bind tightly to the inner membrane, causing bits of egg to cling when you peel away the shell. Freshly laid eggs tend to have a lower pH, more acidic egg white, which makes the proteins in the egg white stickier. As an egg ages, carbon dioxide escapes through the shell and the egg's internal pH rises, becomes more alkaline, causing the egg white to not cling so stubbornly. This is why many cooks say that older eggs are easier to peel than fresh ones. In fact, one kitchen experimenter noted that the higher pH of older eggs allows the whites to separate from the inner shell membrane more easily. So if you've ever noticed that the carton of eggs that's been in your fridge for a couple of weeks peels more nicely than the super fresh farmer's market eggs, it's not your imagination, it's science. Another factor is what happens right after cooking. When an egg is boiled, it expands a bit, and there's a small pocket of air in every egg, usually at the wider end, that gets hotter and expands too. If you cool the egg rapidly, like plunging it in ice water, that air pocket contracts and can help pull the inner membrane away from the shell as it shrinks. This creates a little separation between the egg and shell. If you cool the egg slowly, the membrane may remain stuck to the shell, making peeling harder. That's why people often recommend an ice bath for boiled eggs. It's another trick to make peeling easier, by using basic physics, hot air contracting when cooled, to your advantage. So our peeling problem comes down to two main things: the chemistry of the egg, which changes with pH and egg age, and the handling of the egg, like cooling speed. Now, where do baking soda and salt come in? They are our helpers that tweak those conditions in our favour. Baking soda, also known as sodium bicarbonate, is a familiar item in baking and home remedies. It turns out it's a star in this egg story too. Baking soda is an alkaline substance, meaning it has a high pH, the opposite of acidic. When you add a teaspoon of baking soda to the water you're boiling eggs in, it raises the pH of the water. A bit of this alkaline water even permeates the eggshell during cooking. Eggshells are porous with tiny holes and increases the pH of the egg white as it cooks. Why does that matter? Remember how fresher, more acidic egg whites tend to stick more? By raising the egg white's pH, baking soda is effectively mimicking the effect of an older egg. It gently breaks down some of the proteins in the egg white and causes them to coagulate, clump together, in a way that makes them bond less strongly to the inner shell membrane. In simple terms, the egg white doesn't grip the shell as tightly. As a result, when you go to peel the egg, the shell and that pesky membrane detach more easily from the egg white, coming off in larger pieces instead of 100 tiny bits. It's not just hearsay, there's solid science behind this. Food scientists explain that adding baking soda to the cooking water alkalizes the environment, which weakens the bond between the egg and its shell. One cooking expert noted that all you have to do is boil a pot of water and add a teaspoon of baking soda to significantly reduce peeling frustration. This method has science on its side, as one article put it, because we know higher pH helps the egg separate from the shell. Many home cooks who have tried it swear by the noticeable difference. Shells that once clung on for dear life now practically slide off. It's interesting to note that there's an alternative method some people use, adding vinegar, an acid, to the boiling water instead. Vinegar is the opposite of baking soda on the pH scale. It's very acidic. What vinegar does is dissolve some of the eggshell, which is made of calcium carbonate, effectively softening the shell. This can also make peeling easier by breaking down the shell itself. However, in our case, baking soda's approach is to alter the egg white and the shell's relationship rather than the shell's composition. Both methods can work, but baking soda has the advantage of not leaving any flavour on the egg, whereas vinegar, if overused, might make your egg smell a bit like pickling brine, though typically a small amount won't flavour the egg much. Baking soda is truly the key player in making your eggs easier to peel. But before you dump a whole box in your pot, a word of caution. You only need a small amount, about a teaspoon for a medium pot of water. Using a lot more won't make the eggs that much easier to peel and could actually make your kitchen smell funny. Extremely alkaline water can react with the egg's proteins in a way that produces a slight sulfur odour, that classic boiled egg smell more strongly. Food scientists note that while a bit of baking soda helps, too much can intensify the egg's sulphury flavour. In other words, if you go overboard, your kitchen might smell like a dozen deviled eggs. With a teaspoon or so, this isn't an issue, and in our experience, the eggs come out tasting just like they should, no strange flavours. So moderation is key. Now, what about salt? Most of us add a pinch of salt to pasta water or to soups, almost out of habit. When it comes to boiling eggs, salt has a couple of nifty roles, even if it's not the star of the show like baking soda. First, adding salt to water increases the boiling point slightly. This is a tiny effect for the amounts we use in cooking, but essentially salted water boils at a slightly higher temperature. This means your eggs can cook at a higher temp and perhaps set a bit faster or more firmly. However, the difference with a teaspoon of salt in a pot is very small, so this is more of a fun fact than a game changer. The second role of salt is more immediately useful. Proteins coagulate in the presence of salt and heat. If an egg happens to crack while boiling, sometimes eggs jiggle and bump in bubbling water, causing hairline fractures, the salt in the water will help the leaking egg white solidify quickly. In essence, salt helps seal cracks by causing the egg white that seeps out to firm up fast, plugging the hole. This prevents too much of the egg from leaking into the water, and you won't end up with a messy pot of white strands or lose half your egg to the water. For seniors concerned about kitchen safety, this is a nice benefit. Less splattering if a crack happens, and no surprise eruptions of egg in the pot. There's also a traditional belief that a little salt in the water can make eggs easier to peel. How would salt do that? The idea is that salt particles might permeate the shell, since salt dissolves into tiny ions, and help the proteins not stick as much, similar to the baking soda's effect. Some say the salt can get between the shell and the egg white, aiding separation. However, in scientific tests, salt on its own didn't show a big improvement in peeling ease. One cook noted that a teaspoon of salt didn't make a noticeable difference by itself. So while salt is great for preventing egg white leaks and maybe marginally helping, it's not the primary peeling hero. That title, as we learned, belongs to baking soda. The good news is that adding salt certainly doesn't hurt. It can only help, and it won't make your eggs taste salty. The amount of salt that sneaks through the shell is very small, and in tests, salted water-boiled eggs taste no different than plain water-boiled eggs. So, by adding both baking soda and salt, we're covering our bases. Baking soda to change the egg's chemistry for easy peeling, and salt to protect against cracks and possibly speed up cooking a touch. To sum up the science in a quick glance, here's what each ingredient is doing for you. Ingredient: what it does for boiling eggs: baking soda, NaHCO3, raises the water's pH, alkalinity, which in turn raises the pH of the egg white. This weakens the bond between the egg white and the shell's membrane, making the shell easier to peel off. Just approximately 1 teaspoon is enough for a pot of water. Salt, NaCl, helps water boil at a slightly higher temperature and coagulates any egg white that leaks if the shell cracks, effectively sealing cracks to prevent mess. It may also slightly penetrate the shell to assist with peeling, though its peeling effect is minor. Use about 1 teaspoon. As you can see, this trick is rooted in straightforward science, a bit of kitchen chemistry that results in a practical benefit. And beyond the science, let's not forget why this matters, especially for older adults. Hard-boiled eggs are more than just a convenient breakfast. They're a powerhouse of nutrition. Eggs are an ideal dietary inclusion for older adults, being high in quality protein and rich in essential vitamins and minerals. They contain nutrients like vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids for bone and heart health, and choline, which is important for brain function. In fact, 2 eggs can provide over 15% of the daily protein needs of a senior, plus a significant amount of other nutrients like B12 and selenium, all in an easily digestible form. So, eggs can play a big role in maintaining muscle and overall health as we age. By making boiled eggs easier to prepare and enjoy, this simple baking soda and salt trick might encourage seniors to include eggs in their diet more often, supporting their nutrition and well-being. It's amazing how a tiny tweak in the cooking process can have ripple effects that touch on health, convenience, and happiness at the breakfast table. Now that we've cracked the why behind this trick, it's time to get practical. How can you try this yourself at home and reap the benefits? Let's walk through the step-by-step guide to boiling eggs with baking soda and salt, so you can see the results firsthand. By now, you're probably eager to see this in action with your own eggs. The good news is that it's extremely simple to do. You don't need any special equipment, just your usual pot, stove, and a couple of pantry staples. Here's a practical guide to applying this tip at home, broken down into easy steps. Follow along, and you'll be peeling eggs with a smile in no time. 1. Gather your supplies. You'll need fresh eggs, or older eggs, any will work, but remember, older ones peel even easier. Baking soda, regular table salt, a pot with a lid, water, and a bowl of ice water for cooling the eggs after boiling. For a standard pot that fits 6-8 eggs, measure out about 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of salt. This amount is enough to do the job without overdoing it. Tip: if you're boiling a lot of eggs at once, say a dozen, you can increase the baking soda and salt slightly, for example 1.5 to 2 teaspoons each. But it's usually not necessary to be very exact. 2. Prepare the water. Place your pot on the stove and fill it with enough water to cover the eggs once they're in. Typically, having about 1 inch or 2 of water above the eggs is ideal. Add the baking soda and salt to the water before it gets hot, and give it a stir to dissolve them. You are literally mixing baking soda and salt into the water at this stage, just as the tip suggests. The water might turn a bit cloudy from the baking soda, that's normal. In this step, you're essentially creating an alkaline saline bath for the eggs, which, as we discussed, will work its magic during cooking. 3. Add the eggs. Gently lower your eggs into the pot. You can do this before the water is hot, starting the eggs in cold water, or once the water is boiling. Different cooks prefer different methods. If you start with cold water and eggs in the pot, the eggs will heat up gradually, reducing the risk of cracking from a sudden temperature change. If you prefer to start with boiling water, Make sure to lower the eggs in very carefully with a spoon or ladle to avoid jostling. The salt will help seal any minor cracks that occur, but we want to minimize cracks from the get-go. Either way is fine because the baking soda and salt are already in the water, ready to do their jobs. For our purposes, let's assume we started with the eggs in the water from the beginning. 4. Bring to a boil, then simmer. If you started cold, turn the heat to high and bring the water to a rolling boil. As soon as it reaches a boil, you can turn it down to a gentle simmer and cover the pot with a lid. Boiling eggs doesn't require a hard rolling boil the whole time. In fact, a gentler simmer is preferable once the water is hot because it prevents the eggs from bouncing around too much. Remember, even though salt helps with cracks, we still want to be gentle to avoid them. Start your timer once the water is boiling. For hard-boiled eggs, a good rule of thumb is to let them cook for about 10-12 minutes after boiling. If you like a slightly softer yolk, you can do 8-9 minutes for a medium boiled egg. Since our target audience here is likely enjoying fully cooked hard-boiled eggs, safer and more versatile for later use, we'll stick to approximately 10 minutes. While they cook, you don't need to do anything except maybe ensure it stays at a simmer and doesn't return to a furious boil. 5. Prepare an ice bath. This step is often overlooked, but it's very important for easy peeling and perfectly cooked yolks. While the eggs are boiling, take a large bowl and fill it with cold water and a handful of ice cubes to make it really cold. This will be the ice bath that halts the cooking process. As we learned, rapid cooling causes the egg to contract away from the shell, making peeling easier. And it also prevents that unappetizing greenish ring from forming around the yolk, caused by overcooking or slow cooling. For older adults concerned about sulfur smell or wanting a nice bright yolk, this quick cool down is a key step. 6. Transfer eggs to the ice water. When your timer rings, turn off the heat. Using a spoon, carefully lift each egg out of the hot water and gently place it into the bowl of ice water. Be cautious with this step. The eggs and water are very hot, so use a slotted spoon or regular large spoon and mind your fingers. Let the eggs sit in the cold water for at least 3-5 minutes. You'll notice the ice bath cools them rapidly. This not only stops the cooking, so your yolks don't overcook, but also helps that membrane release its grip on the egg. In fact, you might even see that when you crack the shell later, a bit of water slips under the shell. That's the membrane separating nicely thanks to the temperature change. 7. Peel the eggs. Now for the moment of truth. Take an egg out of the ice bath. You can do them one by one. Gently tap it on the counter or on the inside of the sink to crack the shell. It's often helpful to crack all around the egg. You can roll it lightly under your hand to create a spiderweb of cracks all over. Then start peeling at the wider end where that air pocket usually is. You might find it has an easy in to get under the shell. As you peel, you should find that the shell comes off in satisfying larger pieces, not teeny shards. Feel how smoothly it separates? That's the baking soda and salt at work, along with the ice bath. If needed, you can peel the egg under a little stream of running water. The water can get under the shell and help lift off any small bits. But you might not even need that trick now. In most cases, the shell practically wants to come off. Enjoy that moment. It really is a small joy to peel an egg cleanly without a struggle. 8. Rinse and enjoy or store. Give the peeled egg a quick rinse to make sure no little shell fragments remain. Pat it dry. Now you can either enjoy your egg right away, perhaps with a light sprinkle of salt or pepper or whatever you like, or save it for later. If saving, put the eggs in a container in the fridge. They make a great protein-rich snack, or can be turned into egg salad, deviled eggs, you name it. That's it. You've successfully boiled and peeled eggs using the baking soda and salt method. The steps might have sounded long in description, but really it's as simple as add baking soda and salt to water, boil eggs, cool and peel. Once you try it a couple of times, it will become second nature. Many seniors find that after adopting this method, they can prep a batch of boiled eggs at the start of the week to have on hand, since peeling is no longer a pain. It's perfect for meal prepping. You can cook, peel and refrigerate eggs so you have an easy grab-and-eat protein ready, and you won't hesitate, knowing the peel won't drive you nuts. Before you rush off to the kitchen, let's cover a few common mistakes and tips to ensure you get the best results. Even simple tricks have a few pitfalls to avoid. We've got you covered so your experience will be smooth and foolproof. While the baking soda and salt trick is straightforward, a few common mistakes can sometimes trip people up. Avoid these pitfalls to get the best, most surprising results from this method. Mistake 1. Adding too much baking soda. It's tempting to think, if a little helps, a lot will help even more. But when it comes to baking soda, stick to about 1 teaspoon per pot. Adding a large amount, say a tablespoon or 2, can make the water very alkaline, which might give your eggs a slight off-taste or a stronger sulfur smell. Highly alkaline water can intensify the eggy odour of hard-boiled eggs by producing more hydrogen sulfide gas from the whites. That's the opposite of what we want. Excess baking soda could also make the egg whites a bit rubbery. So measure roughly, but don't dump with a heavy hand. The good news is even a small teaspoon does the trick, as proven by cooks and researchers. So you're not losing any benefit by using moderation. Mistake 2. Using baking powder instead of baking soda. This is an easy mix-up in the pantry. Baking powder is not the same as baking soda. Baking powder contains some baking soda but also acidic components. It's meant for leavening baked goods. If you use baking powder in your water, you won't get the strong alkaline effect, and you might end up with residue or just no benefit. Always double-check that you have plain baking soda, sometimes labelled as bicarbonate of soda. Baking soda is usually found in a box or little jar, whereas baking powder comes in a canister, and the labels will clarify which is which. Using the wrong one is a common oops, but now you know. Mistake 3. Skipping the salt. While baking soda is the main peeling helper, salt has its own benefits. Forgetting to add salt won't ruin the peeling, but you'd miss out on the protection it offers. Remember, salt helps to seal any cracks by quickly coagulating leaking egg white. If you skip salt and an egg cracks, you might lose a lot of egg white into the water and end up with a very misshapen egg and a messy pot. Also, some folks do notice a slight improvement in peel or flavour with salt, so there's no reason to leave it out. It's a simple step. Toss in that pinch or teaspoon of salt along with the baking soda. Mistake 4. Rough handling. Cracking eggs prematurely. It's important to be gentle when placing eggs into the pot and when they're boiling. If you drop an egg straight into boiling water without a spoon, it might hit the bottom and crack. Similarly, a furious boil can make eggs dance and collide, leading to cracked shells. Cracks aren't the end of the world. Salt helps minimize damage, but they can still lead to egg whites seeping out and a less pretty egg. The fix: handle with care. Use a spoon to set eggs in the water. Once boiling, turn it down to a mild simmer. The water just needs to be hot, not throwing the eggs around. This way you reduce the chance of cracks and ensure the egg white stays intact where it belongs, inside the shell, until you peel it. Mistake 5. Overcooking the eggs. Ever had a hard-boiled egg with a greenish-grey ring around the yolk and a strong sulphur smell? That comes from overcooking. If you boil eggs for too long or leave them in hot water without cooling, the yolk's iron can react with sulphur from the white, creating that harmless but unappetizing green compound, iron sulfide. Overcooking can also make the texture of the egg white rubbery. While this isn't directly related to our baking soda and salt trick, it's part of achieving the perfect boiled egg. The solution? Stick to the recommended cook time, approximately 10 minutes for hard-boiled once boiling, and then cool immediately in ice water. Our method already includes that cooling step, so as long as you don't forget it, you'll avoid this issue. If you do ever see a green yolk, don't panic. It's still safe to eat, but now you know to shorten the cook or cool faster next time. Mistake 6. Not using an ice bath, skipping the cool down. We mentioned it earlier, but it bears repeating as a mistake to avoid. It can be tempting to just take the eggs off the stove and let them cool on their own or under cold tap water for a few seconds. However, rapid cooling in an ice bath is crucial for easy peeling. Skipping the ice bath might cause the membrane to stay stuck to the shell, undoing some of the benefit of the baking soda. It's a step that takes only a minute to prepare and a few minutes to do, and it makes a world of difference. So, always have that bowl of ice water ready. If you don't have ice, very cold water and a couple of water changes can do in a pinch anything to get the temperature of those eggs down fast. Mistake 7. Peeling the eggs too late. This one is subtle. If you boil a batch of eggs and store them with the shells on for days, sometimes they can become a bit harder to peel later. Generally, the trick we added, baking soda and salt, still helps even after storage. But the best results are usually when you peel shortly after cooking, or at least the same day. If you are meal prepping, you have 2 choices. Peel the eggs after cooling and then store them peeled in a sealed container in the fridge with a damp paper towel to keep them moist. Or, if storing unpeeled, just know that very long storage might cause the membrane to adhere again slightly as the egg loses moisture. For most people this isn't a big issue, but it's something to be aware of. Peeling soon after cooking will generally be the easiest peeling you'll get. Mistake 8. Using eggs that are too fresh. This is hardly a mistake because fresh eggs are wonderful, but if you have eggs straight from a farm or coop that are only a day or 2 old, even our magic mixture might be only partially effective. Super fresh eggs have very tight bonds inside. Baking soda will help, but you might still notice they aren't as effortless to peel as eggs that are a week or 2 old. Harold McGee, a famed food scientist, even advised that if you must boil very fresh eggs, adding baking soda is the way to go, which is exactly what we're doing. But don't expect absolute perfection every time with ultra-fresh ones. An easy workaround, if you know you'll need perfect eggs, is to buy them a bit in advance. Let them sit in the fridge for a week. If you raise chickens, consider setting aside some eggs for a bit before boiling. If you do end up with a very fresh egg to boil, you could increase the baking soda slightly, maybe 1.5 teaspoons, to give a bit more alkalinity, as McGee suggests. And definitely don't skip the cooling step. That will maximize your chances of success. In any case, even fresh eggs will peel a bit easier with this method than they would otherwise. Just manage your expectations that easy doesn't always mean absolutely flawless, because nature can be stubborn. By watching out for these common missteps, using the right amounts, handling gently, cooking properly and cooling quickly, you'll set yourself up for consistent success. Soon, boiling and peeling eggs will go from a chore to a satisfying routine. Many seniors find that after avoiding these mistakes and using this method, they regain confidence in the kitchen. No more feeling clumsy or frustrated by a simple egg. Instead, you'll feel empowered, knowing the science is on your side and you're in control of the outcome. Now that we have the know-how and the cautions in place, let's wrap up our journey with an emotional note. The real-life impact this little trick can have, and why it's about more than just eggs. Let's revisit Margaret, our 68-year-old grandmother, now a little while after she's adopted the baking soda and salt trick. The difference in her routine is night and day. Where she once approached boiling eggs with a bit of trepidation and maybe only did it rarely because of the hassle, she now feels a spark of joy each time she fills a pot with water. It may sound silly to feel joy from something as ordinary as boiling eggs, but for Margaret, it represents a small victory in her day. It's one less struggle, one more success. She even finds herself sharing the tip enthusiastically with friends at her community centre. "Have you tried adding baking soda when you boil eggs?" she asks her friend Carol, who mentioned she stopped making egg salad because peeling was too much work. Carol tries it, and the next week comes back beaming, "I did it! It worked like a charm, and I made the best egg salad sandwiches for my grandkids." They bond over this discovery, marvelling at how at their age they're still learning new tricks. It's a reaffirming feeling. You're never too old to learn something new and make life better. In John's case, he turned his newfound peeling prowess into a family activity. He invites his grandkids over for an egg-stravaganza where they decorate hard-boiled eggs, much easier to do on smoothly peeled eggshells. He boils a dozen eggs with baking soda and salt, and when it's time to peel, he shows the kids how easily the shells come off. There are plenty of oohs and ahs as the children peel their eggs without frustration. It's almost like peeling an orange in satisfying strips. John then lets them draw faces on the eggs or colour them, turning it into a fun craft. Later, those eggs become deviled egg snacks. John feels a swell of pride seeing how a bit of science he understood made this possible, and more so, how it brought laughter and learning into his home. His granddaughter, curious as ever, asks why the salt and baking soda helped, and John joyfully passes on the simple science in a way a 10-year-old can grasp. In doing so, he's passing down not just a kitchen trick, but an attitude. That learning and experimenting in the kitchen can be enjoyable and rewarding, no matter your age. For Linda, who had initially given up on boiling eggs, this trick was downright liberating. After trying it, she reported that she felt back in control of her kitchen. It may sound like an overstatement, after all, we're just talking about eggs, but for Linda, being able to cook something healthful for herself without any frustration was a boost to her confidence. She had been relying more on instant foods or things that didn't challenge her arthritic hands. Now she includes boiled eggs in her weekly meal prep, knowing she won't have to fight with shells or feel clumsy. She even started experimenting with other simple recipes, her renewed success with eggs giving her the courage to try. It's as if this small win cracked open the door for more. She shares, "I realized that so much of cooking is about technique. If one way isn't working for me, maybe there's a smarter way, like this one that does. I feel empowered to find those ways now." What a fantastic takeaway. A positive, curious mindset in the kitchen. These stories show that the impact of this tip isn't just physical, easier peeling eggs, but emotional and psychological. There's a sense of accomplishment in solving a problem that used to pester you daily. It might be a minor problem in the grand scheme, but overcoming it can brighten your day. For older adults especially, maintaining independence and confidence in the kitchen is so important. Cooking your own meals is both healthier and deeply satisfying. Each time you successfully make something you enjoy, it reinforces the feeling that age is just a number. You are fully capable of learning, adapting, and thriving. And when a trick is this simple and effective, it feels almost like a gift you wish you had known sooner. Imagine the next family gathering. You're proudly presenting a platter of deviled eggs or a bowl of delicious potato salad with perfectly boiled egg slices, and someone asks, "How did you get the eggs to look so perfect?" You'll smile and maybe demonstrate your little secret. It becomes a conversation starter, a nugget of wisdom you can impart. Perhaps a younger family member is amazed, "I never knew that. I always have the worst time peeling eggs." You've now become the teacher, the one with the seasoned know-how, turning the tables on the stereotype that it's always the younger folks teaching seniors about life hacks. Knowledge flows both ways, and your life experience combined with openness to new ideas makes you a powerful resource of wisdom. It's also worth noting the practical benefits for your well-being. With easier peeling, you're likely to eat more of those eggs you cook, instead of tossing bits that stick to shells. That means more nutrition in your body and less in the trash. You're reducing waste. No more sacrifices of chunks of egg white stuck to shells that end up discarded. Over time, that means you get the full value of what you paid for and cooked. If you're on a budget, as many retirees are, every bit counts. And this trick helps you literally not throw away good food. It feels good to use up ingredients fully and efficiently. Kitchen safety is improved too. Think about it, fewer cracked eggs boiling over means less chance of hot water splatters or messy cleanups. And not wrestling with slippery eggshells and possibly grabbing a knife to chip away at a stubborn shell means you're less likely to accidentally cut yourself. These are small things, but they add up to a safer, more relaxed cooking experience. Plus, because you're more confident now, you'll cook more often instead of opting for processed or pre-peeled options, which benefits your health in the long run. As we near the end of this story, the overarching theme that emerges is empowerment through knowledge. A little knowledge of science gave Margaret, John, Linda, and hopefully you a new tool that makes daily life easier and more enjoyable. These kinds of positive changes accumulate, contributing to a sense of mastery and optimism. It's amazing how something as humble as an egg and 2 pantry ingredients can have a ripple effect on our lifestyle. Key takeaways: a pinch of science goes a long way. Adding baking soda, alkaline and salt to your boiling water changes the cooking environment just enough to make peeling eggs far easier, as many cooks have observed. This means less time picking at shells and more time enjoying your food. Benefits for older adults. This trick specifically helps those with arthritis or dexterity issues by reducing the effort needed to peel eggs. It also encourages enjoying eggs regularly, which are a great source of protein and nutrients for seniors. More protein can help maintain muscle and energy levels, contributing to better health. Less waste and more nutrition. With shells coming off cleanly, you keep more of the egg white intact. No more throwing out tasty bits stuck to shell. That means you're getting all the nutrition you paid for, stretching your groceries further and nourishing yourself more completely. Kitchen confidence. Mastering this small trick can give a big boost to your confidence. It's a reminder that you can solve problems and learn new skills at any age. Cooking becomes more enjoyable when you're not worried about a frustrating task. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, I hope these eggs peel all right," you'll think, "I've got this down to an art." Sharing and community. Finally, tips like these are wonderful to share. They connect us through the joy of learning. Whether you teach your grandkids a bit of kitchen science or swap recipes with a friend, you're contributing to a culture of lifelong learning and mutual support. That's truly heartwarming and enriching for everyone involved. Armed with these takeaways, we hope you feel not just informed, but inspired. Now, let's conclude with a call to action, because knowledge is best put into practice. Next time you step into your kitchen to boil eggs, remember this little story and tip. Instead of bracing yourself for a peeling battle, smile, knowing you have a trick up your sleeve that many people still don't know. We invite you, whether you're 60, 70, 80 or beyond, to give this a try and see the results for yourself. Go ahead and mix that pinch of baking soda and salt before boiling your eggs, and get ready to be pleasantly surprised at how smoothly things go. Experiment with it. Maybe try half your eggs with the mixture and half without, and compare the peeling experience. It can be a fun mini-experiment that rekindles that sense of curiosity. We'd love to hear about your experience. Did this tip work as promised? Were you as amazed as Margaret was when her shells slipped off cleanly? Perhaps you have your own variations or additional tips, like adding a dash of vinegar or a secret grandma's method. Feel free to share those too. By sharing, you're helping others learn and improving everyone's daily life a little bit. Join the conversation. Leave a comment with your results or any questions. Maybe even challenge a friend to try the method and compare notes. A little friendly kitchen challenge can be a great way to stay connected and engaged. If you found this guide helpful and uplifting, don't keep it a secret. Share this video with fellow seniors, friends or family who might benefit from an easier cooking routine. We believe that cooking should be joyful and empowering for everyone, and sometimes it's the small tips that make a world of difference. By spreading the word, you're helping others save time, reduce frustration, and embrace healthier habits like eating more home-cooked nutritious foods. And of course, if you're hungry for more positive science-backed tips to improve your daily life, subscribe to our channel for more content. We're dedicated to bringing you insights that are not only informative but also encouraging, because learning new things is a lifelong adventure. From the kitchen to wellness to simple life hacks, we've got plenty more to share that can help you live life to the fullest with confidence and a smile. In closing, remember that aging is not about decline. It's about growth, wisdom, and yes, continual learning. Something as small as a new way to boil eggs can remind us of the bigger truth, that we are capable of change and improvement at any stage of life. So here's to delicious breakfasts, newfound kitchen skills, and the joy of discovery. Happy boiling, happy peeling, and happy eating.